Mal was laying in her bed, staring up at the ceiling. She felt numb. She couldn't control the swirling thoughts in her mind or the emotions that made her entire body feel like it was vibrating. She was suddenly aware of a voice.
What?
Someone was talking to her, but the words were just a droning buzz. Mal lifted her head and saw Greta pacing back and forth at the foot of her bed, unleashing a tirade. Mal watched her mother.
Mal. All right, Mal. Are you okay? Shall I call Tomas to come and look at you?
I'm fine.
Mal pushed herself up against the headboard of the bed and just stared at Greta.
I know it wasn't easy for you to say those things, but you did the right thing.
What about Hazel? Have you found her?
The door suddenly opened and a woman with a bag slung over her shoulder entered. Greta turned on her.
What do you want?
I'm here for the fitting.
The woman pointed at the dress that was hanging limply over the back of Mal's desk chair.
For the dress? To take in the sides.
Of course. We're ready for you.
Ready? Ready for what? Oh, I'm not wearing that dress, and I'm not going to that gala.
Yes, you are going.
No, I'm not. I did what you asked. Now you go get Hazel.
I said I would find Hazel when you cleared your name and restored the family's reputation. And that can only happen if you go to Magistrate Tarkin's gala. You'll smile, you'll wave, and show everyone that we are a united front.
You promised me you would help me find Hazel.
And I will keep my promise after you attend the gala.
Mal didn't respond. Greta was also silent.
Should I come back at a more convenient time?
No. Now is fine.
The tailor walked past her and Mal, ignoring them as she picked up the dress and inspected it. She frowned as she held the garment up to the light, noticing several wrinkles and a spot of dirt. She pulled out a device from her bag and turned it on. A plume of steam shot out, and she waved the device back and forth over the dress. For a moment, Mal got lost in her own thoughts. Would Ace forgive her for what she did? That look on his face in court was etched in her mind, and it was torturing her. There was shock, but also pain at what he must have felt was a deep betrayal of trust. Her thoughts turned back to Hazel. She had to save her. That was the least she could do for Ace. Maybe if she could get Hazel back, he might forgive her.
I've arranged for you to give a speech at the gala. You can assure everyone there that you are loyal and dedicated to maintaining order and control in Subterra.
Greta stared at Mal, expecting an outburst, but Mal simply nodded. The tailor approached Mal with the dress. Mal raised her arms up and allowed the tailor to dress her. Greta was surprised to see how passive Mal was acting, but didn't let it show. She stared at her daughter, now wearing the dress. The tailor moved about, altering the garment with pins to make the necessary changes to fit Mal's slender form.
I wore that very same dress at my Ascension ball. I was so scared, shaking all over. I was much younger than you. And apparently I was bigger than you, too.
I never wanted this. The responsibilities of our family. I didn't ask for it.
I didn't either. But that doesn't mean I can just refuse to do my job. You and I are so different, but I am still your mother, and I want what's best for you. I want you to be...
You want me to be happy? Is that what you want from me, Mother?
I want you to reach your full potential. I see so much in you. You are such a smart person. I just want you to know that.
And I want you to promise me, if I do this, wear this ridiculous dress, and read your prepared speech, that you will spare Ace and help me find Hazel.
You have my word. Ace will be spared, and I will help you find the bot.
Ace sat in his cell, listening to raised voices just beyond the locked door. Tomas was back to see him, but the sentry was arguing that he had orders to let nobody inside. Ace got up and pressed his ear against the cell door.
Since the mine accident, New Bramer's been on lockdown. Nobody gets inside. By order of Dalton Locke. I have to run some important tests. There are rumors the miners were causing trouble at the Level 30 transit depot. We can't take any chances.
Do I look like a miner to you? We're nowhere near Level 30.
My orders are to keep...
We all have our orders. My test will only take a few minutes, and then I'll be gone. This is the last time.
The conversation ended. Ace strained against the door but couldn't hear any more noise. Maybe Tomas had left. Then, the tumblers in the lock turned with a metallic thunk. Ace backed up as the door swung open.
The door stays open.
The sentry walked back to his post and out of sight. Tomas waited a few seconds to make sure the sentry was gone, then turned to Ace.
Sit down, Ace. We don't have a lot of time.
What happened in the mines?
Terrible accident. 2 men and a woman died. There are rumors of miners striking to protest the conditions. Everyone's looking over their shoulders. But that's not your concern at the moment. The trial.
I know you asked me to beg for mercy, but everything Greta Locke said was a lie. And then Mal came in and she lied.
Ace, you need to stick to the plan. Ask for mercy. Admit everything. They're not interested in the truth. They want a simple story about a bunker orphan who acted alone so they can blame him for everything. To survive this, it's the only way.
I'll try to, but I just want to get out of here and find my dog.
Forget about that bot. You have to save yourself.
Maybe if I just tell the truth, they'll have mercy on me and they'll say that I'm innocent.
No, Ace, you don't have a choice. Everyone is watching your trial. The accident and the unrest with the miners has made things worse. You have to admit guilt and get this trial over with as quickly as possible.
That's good advice, Ace. I'd take it if I were you.
Greta walked into the cell from the shadows. Ace had no idea how long she had been listening or how much she had heard. Tomas started rooting around in his medical bag, trying to hide a guilty look.
Oh, Greta, I was just running some tests on Ace here.
Stop lying, Tomas. I have eyes and ears all over New Bramer.
Tomas got to his feet, stared down at Ace, then back at Greta.
The boy needs counsel. He has no one. I'm just trying to help him navigate the process.
You're right, Tomas. The boy does need counsel.
She turned to Ace.
Tomorrow you will be allowed to speak in court. Your best course of action is to admit your guilt.
But I'm not guilty!
The evidence and testimony is overwhelming. This is the only way you can avoid execution.
I didn't kidnap Mal. I wasn't the one who opened that door. She lied. She lied about everything. Greta stared hard at Ace, then leaned in close to him, whispering in his ear.
I know where your bot is. I'm tracking it as we speak. I could send soldiers to retrieve it and have it tossed into the lava vats. Or you could throw yourself on the mercy of the court, and the bot stays intact. I might even be able to arrange a reunion for you two. It's your choice.
Greta stood back, appraising Ace for a moment. Did you make Mal say those lies about me? Is this how things work up here?
Mal is not your concern. She was never your concern. Your paths should never have crossed. You are from 2 different worlds, and that is how it should have stayed. Forget about Mal. Pretend you never met.
Does Mal feel the same way?
She is a lock, and you are nothing. You will never see or speak to her again. You can save yourself and protect Mal if you admit your guilt and beg for mercy. You have a role to play in all of this. Save yourself.
Greta turned and walked out of the cell quickly. Ace watched her go, then turned to Tomas, waiting for him to say something. Can't you do anything?
Well, there is one thing.
He reached inside his medical bag, pulled out Ace's optics, and offered them to him.
I think if a man is facing judgment, he should at least see it coming.
Greta is okay with this.
Well, it took some doing, but she agreed.
Thanks.
I took the liberty of adding a few upgrades. Some neural receptors. You'll be able to access most functions by blinking and... I won't bore you. Instructions can be viewed after the boot up cycle.
You didn't have to do that.
You saved Mal. This is just my way of saying thank you.
Tomas smiled, grabbed his medical bag, and left Ace alone as he stared down at his optics. Greta found Dalton in his subterranean, just outside of his private chambers. It was a small structure enclosed with glass. An array of spectrum lights were hanging from the ceiling, shining down on a variety of plants, some potted, some growing in a patch of earth. Greta peered through the glass pane, which was streaked with water droplets, and saw Dalton. He had changed into a brown work suit and was kneeling on the ground, tending to his personal garden. She entered.
Weeds everywhere. As soon as I pull one, two more come up. You'd think Tomas would find a compound to destroy them.
I think he has more pressing matters.
Dalton continued weeding and kept his back towards Greta.
You spoke to the bunker orphan?
I did.
Will he comply?
He'll do it. To protect Mal.
He loves her.
He's a kid. He doesn't know anything.
Does she love him?
It doesn't matter. After tomorrow, she'll never see him again. I'll make sure of that.
Good. Stay focused. Tomorrow we'll put an end to this.
Dalton grabbed the last weed and yanked it out of the ground. Ace lay in his bunk and stared up at the ceiling. He had given up on sleep hours ago. To calm his nerves, he practiced using the neural commands that Tomas had installed in his optics. He changed the brightness, zoomed in and out, and switched views to peripheral vision, all by blinking his eyes and looking at various points on his internal display. Even with this temporary distraction, he could not clear his mind of Greta's words. His choices were death or a life of slave labor in the mines with no hope for escape. Both choices were a death sentence as far as Ace was concerned. A quick death, or a slow draining of his spirit until he was nothing but a mindless drone. This was the one chance he had to tell the truth, to let everyone in the court and everyone watching on VCOMs know that he was not guilty of the crimes that they were accusing him of. If they were actually going to let him tell his story, he could explain that Carter was the bad guy, not him. He could tell them all about life in the Barrens and the fear and oppression that they all lived under. But if he said that, it would make Mal look like a liar. What would happen to her then? What would her family do to her? She would be trapped in a prison just like Ace. Maybe not a prison with bars, but still, her life might be ruined. Ace switched off his optics, and the darkness immediately returned. He whistled softly, the command that would call Hazel, knowing in his heart that she couldn't hear him. Then he closed his eyes and once again tried to fall asleep. As the final day of Ace's trial began, Greta stood behind the podium and waited for the crowd to settle. A large slate had been brought into the chambers and was hanging on the wall behind her. With his optics, Ace could make out all the details of the courtroom. He scanned the chamber looking for Mal and found her sitting in one of the lower sections. He blinked his eyes once and zoomed in on her. She was wearing a formal dress. Her hair was done up and she was wearing makeup around her eyes. She looked so different. Mal. The sentry moved to block Ace's view and put his hand on the hilt of his cattle prod. He motioned for Ace to look forward at the podium.
The Regent's supervisor will address the court at this time.
The slate flickered and Dalton Locke appeared. He was holding a book in one hand. It was an actual book made of paper. A rare item in Subterra. Dalton adjusted his great-great-grandfather's eyeglasses, opened the book to a specific page, and started reading.
Let it be known that any person of Subterra, man or woman, adult or child, who subverts our shared mission of survival and violates the Alpha Doctrine will face an adjudication where evidence will be presented. The accused will be allowed to give their account and present any evidence of their innocence. If the evidence is sufficient to determine the guilt of that person, they shall be terminated immediately.
Dalton closed the book and stared straight ahead, as if he was talking to every citizen in Subterra directly.
My great-great-grandfather Joseph Locke wrote these words. I never got to meet him, but I wish I had. He was long gone before I was born, before any of us were born. But his principles are still alive and with us here today. We haven't needed an adjudication for a long, long time. All of us know what is at stake, and we follow the rules. That's how we survive. Termination may sound cruel to some of you, barbaric or even immoral, but it is a necessary tool to keep order.
Ace stared up at Dalton and clenched his jaw. He thought to himself, of course you haven't needed an adjudication, because your sentries just killed dwellers and bunker orphans with impunity. No citizen ever hears about that. He wanted to yell at Dalton, call him a liar and a hypocrite. But he fought the urge, knowing it would only earn him a crippling jolt of electricity from the sentry's cattle prod.
Now, the accused will be allowed to speak.
The slate went black. Greta turned to the sentry and nodded. The sentry removed Ace's shackles and motioned for him to rise. Ace stood facing Greta. From his central command center, Dalton stared at various slates on the wall that showed multiple angles of the courtroom. He spoke to one of the technicians controlling the live feed.
I want tight close-ups on Greta and Ace. Whenever the boy speaks, focus on him.
Dalton kept staring intently at Ace. The boy looked scared. Good. He should be. All over Subterra, VCOM's slates and screens showed Ace's face. In the spelunker, the bar patrons went quiet as they watched him. Venus turned up the volume. In the chute, a gathered crowd of citizens, hundreds of them watched on one of the big screens near the entrance to the market. In Obsidian Star, Hazel was battling a Mass 4, wearing it down, clawing and biting, then dancing clear, draining the Mass 4's battery. While some of the gamblers were cheering on Hazel, most of them were staring at their VCOMs, looking at the bunker orphan who was about to speak. At Oxford Turn, Gannon and the miners were standing shoulder to shoulder, watching the broadcast on a small slate. The screen was cracked, and the reception was fuzzy, but they could still see Ace as Greta spoke.
State your name for the court.
Ace.
Speak clearly. I can't hear you.
My name is Ace.
Ace, you are accused of kidnapping Malin Locke, bombing Eagle's Nest, and violating the Alpha Doctrine by opening the outer bunker door. This is your chance to tell the court your version of the events that led to these crimes.
Ace's heart was beating hard and fast. He could feel a lump rise in his throat as he stared straight ahead. He realized in that moment that he didn't know what to say first. Tomas had told him just to admit his guilt and beg for mercy. But now that he was here, this was his one and only chance to tell his story. He took a deep breath, trying to calm himself, trying to gather his thoughts. I was born in the Barrens. I lived there my whole life. I don't know anything about Joseph Locke or his laws. I do know the difference between right and wrong, but sometimes when you're hungry or scared or desperate, following the rules isn't always an option. Life for the unchipped is hard. You have no idea what it takes for us to survive down there.
The accused will only speak about the events that are relevant to the charges. Tell us about your interaction with Malin Locke.
I met Mal for the first time in Winter Garden.
Let the records indicate that the accused is referring to Malin Locke, third heir to the office of Regent Supervisor.
I was trying to get to the surface because I just wanted to get out of Subterra. There was nothing for me here. I didn't feel wanted and certainly not accepted. So I thought anywhere is better than this bunker. I was being chased by a sentry, but I was able to escape. And I made it to Winter Garden. At first, I thought it was the surface, but it was actually just a biome. An anthropogenic biome is what Malin called it. Ace looked over at Mal and saw that she was staring back at him. He turned back to Greta, summoning the courage to say what needed to be said. I know that I broke the laws. In your eyes, I am guilty of crimes, but I felt like I had no choice. If I stayed in Subterra, I was going to die. Maybe of starvation, or maybe a sentry would find me and throw me into the lava pits.
So you kidnapped Malin Locke and used her biochip to access the elevator to the surface and violated the Alpha Doctrine.
Ace looked at Mal again. She was staring straight ahead, unable to make eye contact with him. It is true that I entered the records room and stole a map to help me get to the surface. It's also true that I went to Eagle's Nest and rode the elevator to the surface. I admit that I walked onto the surface in violation of your Alpha Doctrine.
If you are admitting guilt, then I will pronounce judgment.
But I didn't force Mal to do anything. She is my friend. The court erupted in chaos for a moment, but Greta quickly regained control.
Silence! The last statement will be taken off the record. Malin Locke has already given her testimony that she was kidnapped by you.
You have to understand, Mal didn't have a choice either. Yes, she was kidnapped, but not by me. It was by a man named Carter and his followers, the Cult of Amun. They were responsible for taking her. They set off the bomb at Eagle's Nest. You have to know that. You were there. They used Mal and her chip to get to the surface.
The accused is in violation of this court.
Chaos erupted in the court. Greta called for silence again, but couldn't be heard over the noise.
Silence!
Ace kept talking, shouting loudly. Mal tried to stop him. We both did. Carter was using Mal for the chip in her arm.
No. You kidnapped Malin for her chip. You exploited my daughter for your plot.
The crowd was in an uproar. There was no chance of restoring order now. I thought I was going to be able to speak the truth. The truth is, the Locks murder the unchipped or make them slaves to work in the mines. Ace took a step toward Greta, and the sentry thrust the cattle prod into his back. A jolt of electricity surged into Ace's body, and he fell to the ground.
Dirty, unchipped filth.
Send him to Hell's Gate.
All over Subterra, spectators reacted to the violence on the VCOMs. In Oxford Turn, The miners were howling with outrage as they watched the sentry torture Ace and put him back in his shackles. In the command center, Dalton stared at his slate in shock. He turned to one of the operators and shouted,
"Cut the feed, now!"
The monitor suddenly went dark and the broadcast abruptly ended. In Oxford Turn, the miners were in a frenzy as they saw the slate go black. Gannon looked around at his people. They were angry. This had suddenly become personal to them. The screaming and yelling soon coalesced into a chant that echoed throughout the tunnels.
Free Ace! Free Ace! Free Ace! Free Ace! Free Ace! Free Ace!
Back in New Bremer, Greta had left the stage and stormed up to Ace, who was back in his shackles, grimacing in pain. Greta grabbed his chin and pulled him towards her.
You have no idea what you've done to yourself and Mal.
Mal pushed her way through the frenzied crowd and worked her way down from the viewing stands. As she walked toward the exit, she took one last look at Ace. Inspired by Ace's courage, Mal's mouth curled into a wry smile. An hour had passed since the pandemonium in the New Bremer courtroom. Greta and Dalton were alone in the command center. The technicians had all been dismissed. The VCOM slates were dark. Greta was seated. Dalton was pacing in front of her.
How could you let this happen?
I thought he would take our deal.
You thought wrong. You let that bunker trash get the better of you. How is that possible?
We should authorize lockdown protocols for level 10 and below. We need to station sentries in the chute and cover all transit stations until this dies down.
A show of force? Now? That's the worst thing we could do. Your advice is meaningless to me. You've lost control of the situation and let Malin cloud your judgment. I've lost faith in you. You made this mess, and now I'll have to fix it.
Greta maintained eye contact with her father. She was stunned, but wouldn't allow herself to show any emotion. Dalton stopped pacing and sat down in a chair next to her.
I want our citizens to feel that nothing has changed. I am still in control.
We should at least put a curfew in place.
No! No! Everything stays the same. I will prepare a statement and give a short speech on the VCOM, telling the citizens the trial will conclude tomorrow. I will personally pass judgment on the boy, and things will go back to normal soon enough.
But I am the adjudicator. I'm required to pass judgment.
You've lost that privilege. This message needs to come from the top, the very top. Since Ace has refused to ask for mercy, we will have him publicly executed.
Greta started to speak, but stopped herself. She knew he had made up his mind, and there was no changing it.
What about the magistrate's gala?
It goes on as scheduled. Will Malin be attending?
She will. And she will read the speech you wrote.
Good. You may have failed as my daughter, but you have a chance to put things right as a mother. I've decided to broadcast her speech on VCOM. It'll be good for the citizens to see a Locke in a formal gown, dancing, mingling with the elites. It's just the distraction we need. It'll show them that our family endures, survives, and flourishes.
Greta nodded but didn't respond. Dalton switched on one of the slates.
Mal tried to stop him.
It showed video of Ace speaking passionately over the noise in the courtroom.
What about the miners? We should at least double the sentry patrols.
Do that. Though I doubt they pose any serious threat. Gannon will keep them pacified. Anything else?
No.
I have a lot of work to do, and so do you. Dismissed.
Mal arrived in Edendale Hall, escorted by her mother and her father, Micah Pinder. Micah was the superintendent of the shoot and was blessed with an abundance of charisma and charm. He was born to be a politician. Mal loved her father, but he was never around. He was constantly working and always surrounded by people who needed something from him. Parties like this were his specialty, and he was able to put on a big smile and make conversation with anyone about anything. This was a trait Mal had definitely not inherited. She was more her mother, better in one-on-one situations, more interested in having a deep conversation than exchanging banal chit-chat. As they walked through the arched doorway, a quartet played a march to accompany their entrance. The gathered elites, all high-ranking members of the military and government, clapped politely and nodded as the trio passed. A man and two women, members of Dalton's media division, filmed Mal in her dress. The gala was being broadcast over the VCOM, and Mal was the star of the show. They continued on to the center of the room and stopped underneath the grand dome, where Magistrate Tarkin waited for them, standing next to his young consort. The consort forced a smile as she looked at Mal, who was showing her up and stealing all the attention on what should have been her night. Tarkin was a transportation director and one of Dalton's most loyal supporters. He welcomed Mal with an awkward, uncomfortably long embrace, but she played along, trying to keep a smile on her face. The group exchanged pleasantries, kissed cheeks, and posed for the cameras. Then the quartet changed the tempo of the music, and suddenly the gala was in full swing. Servers carried in food, and the dance floor quickly filled up.
So good to see you.
Mal found a chance to slip away when Greta and Micah were pulled into a discussion with Magistrate Tarkin about unauthorized transit use in the lower sectors.
We've shut down all the access points. The miners won't.
Mal couldn't follow anything they were saying, so she just excused herself.
I'm gonna go get something to eat.
Don't stray too far. You have to deliver a speech. Soon.
I know. I'll be right back.
Mal started walking toward the buffet table, eyeing a tower of cacao-paste treats, her stomach grumbling. But she barely made it 5 steps before she was blocked by 2 older aristocratic women. They fawned over her dress and talked about her ordeal at the trial, and how brave she must have been to endure her kidnapping at the hands of that bunker orphan. Mal's mouth was beginning to hurt from maintaining the phony smile, but she kept it up, knowing this was the price for getting Hazel back.
You were so brave at the trial.
Thank you.
That's a lovely dress, dear.
Thanks. It was my mother's.
Oh, I remember your mother's Ascension Ball. She and Dalton had the first dance.
As the women droned on, Mal's mind drifted away to thoughts of Ace. He was the brave one, not her. Even when faced with the full authority of the Locks, he spoke the truth. What would they do to him, she thought to herself.
Dress, dear.
When she had heard her grandfather reading from the original Book of Law, written by Joseph Locke himself, when she heard him say that all those guilty of subversion would be terminated, her heart sank. Would they really kill him? She had asked her mother earlier when they were getting ready for the gala, but she would only say that the decision was Dalton's and it was out of her hands.
If you would mind, please excuse me.
Mal excused herself from the 2 women and moved once again toward the buffet table, and once again she was cut off by a young soldier and his date.
Mowen, there you are. I wanted to ask you what the surface was like.
Dusty. Dry. Hard to breathe.
It must have been a helpless feeling, being kidnapped and forced up there.
Yeah. It was horrible. I will never forget it.
Come on. You're the first person I've ever met who's been on the surface. Give me some detail. What was the worst part?
The worst part? When Carter was going to sacrifice me to his sun god. Yeah.
The soldier and his date looked at each other, confused by her strange admission.
I meant, what I was saying was I was frightened. The air was... I'm so sorry. I have to go speak to my mother about something. It was a pleasure meeting both of you.
As she finally reached the buffet table and picked up one of the fragile cacao paste confections, the lights started to flicker on and off. A hand landed on her shoulder.
Mal, it's time for your speech.
Mal turned around to see Greta motioning her toward the balcony that overlooked the hall. Mal put the treat back on the tower and followed her mother to the stairs. When they got to the balcony, Micah and Greta stayed back, standing next to each other and allowing Mal to move to the front of the balcony. This was her show now. The quartet stopped playing, and suddenly it was very, very quiet in the hall. Mal took out a folded piece of paper from a pocket in her dress. She unfolded it and looked at the words. She had marked down some talking points, summarized from Dalton's lengthy speech he had written for her. It was the same piece of paper she had used to sketch Hazel and Ace. She stared at the charcoal images for a moment, then heard her mother clear her throat behind her. She refocused her attention on the crowd below. 200 of Subterra's most vital and important suck-ups, sycophants, and Locke loyalists were staring back at her. How had it come to this? What was she doing? This act went against everything she cared about. She looked down at the paper again and saw Hazel's sketch. Hazel. That's why she was doing this. She looked back at the crowd.
You've all heard about my terrible ordeal at the hands of Ace, the bunker orphan on trial.
Mal folded the paper and put it away. She no longer needed it.
Yes, I suffered. I was forced to do awful things against my will. I almost died. And my mother almost died.
She paused, looked back at Greta, then turned back to the audience.
But I am here to tell you, this ordeal has made me stronger. It has given me the resolve to lead the next generation of Subterra and uphold my family's legacy.
There was a small smattering of applause. Mal waited briefly for the applause to end, then continued.
I've come face to face with the enemies of our society. And I can say confidently, we should not be afraid. They live in fear. They fear what we represent. Order, prosperity, peace, and the enduring spirit of the human race. We are the beacon of hope that Joseph Locke established when he first broke ground over 100 years ago.
This time, the applause was louder and accompanied by shouts of approval. Mal looked down at the crowd and a tear formed in her eye that spilled down her cheek. Some people were watching on their VComs and could clearly see the tears now rolling down Mal's face. The lies were getting to Mal. Her own words were ripping her up inside. Her head was spinning. But the crowd mistook her tears as a show of pride and her love for Subterra and a passion for doing her duty. Mal had to finish this speech or she was going to start sobbing uncontrollably.
I'm ready now. Ready to take my place alongside my mother as a leader.
Mal's speech was interrupted by screaming and shouting. Something was happening just beyond the archway. Mal strained for a better look as the house lights came up and illuminated the hall. A band of miners wearing filthy coveralls and brandishing crude weapons stormed into Edendale Hall. They pushed into the crowd, chanting loudly. The cloaked miner was with them, leading the way. Scuffles broke out as some of the elites tried to push the miners back. Punches were thrown. Blood was shed. Their chanting continued, but was soon drowned out by the screams of terrified citizens who were suddenly running for their lives. Greta pulled Mal back from the edge of the balcony.
Mal, we have to get out of here. Now!
Wait! Mother! What's happening?
Greta spun her around, grabbed her hand, and led her toward the stairs. Micah followed with a security detail that had appeared from the wings to usher the family to safety. Sentries poured into the hall, weapons drawn. They charged the miners, who turned the fury on them. A wild melee ensued. Sentries used cattle prods on the miners, and the miners fought back with pickaxes and pry bars. The miners fought savagely, but were no match for the armor and high-tech weapons of the sentries. Mal and her family reached the ground floor, and as the security team whisked them toward a rear exit, Mal caught a brief glimpse of the fight. The cloaked miner unleashed a loud battle cry and swung his pickaxe down on an unsuspecting sentry. His armor prevented the weapon from penetration, but the blow knocked him to the ground. Another sentry took aim with a plasma rifle and shot a female miner at close range. She clutched her abdomen as blood began to soak through her coveralls, and she crumpled to the polished marble floor of Edendale Hall. Mal just looked on, numb to what she was seeing. Greta still had her hand and pulled her through the exit door and away from the danger. As they ran along an escape tunnel, horrible thoughts were swirling in Mal's head. Nothing was ever going to be the same. A great reckoning was coming to Subterra, a wildfire of chaos, destruction, and rebellion. And without even knowing it, she had been right there to light the match.
Subterra. Written and produced by Steve Kruger and Warren Davis. Narrated by Marty Yu. Performed by Cece Boyce, Jenette Goldstein, John Sylvain, Doug Perkins, Hugh Fink, Matt Williams, Steve Kruger, and Marty Yu.